This is a deep dive podcast covering articles published on Ecogate's blog, brought to you by Ecogate, the leader in on-demand dust collection.
Dust collection runs all day, burning watts for dash away. Dust collection got a closed gate, watch the airflow low and it costs so great. No. Oh. Turn the airflow into cash flow, saving thousands, literally thousands. We gate to gate to watch your savings grow.
Factories, wow. They're like the engines of industry, huh? Just this constant hum of activity, machines working at full speed. You'd think with all that energy, they'd be running at peak efficiency.
Yeah, it's easy to assume that, right? More activity, more efficiency.
All right, but what if I told you that even in these bustling factories, there's this hidden drain on energy, a blind spot that could be costing them big time?
It's true. You see, we often equate activity with efficiency, but the reality is a lot more, well, nuanced.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for me.
Imagine a factory floor, right?
Yeah.
And picture the dust collection systems working at full blast, nonstop, even when those machines are just sitting there idle.
Really? So it's like leaving your car running all day long, just on the off chance you might need to run to the store later.
Exactly. It's about being smart about how we use energy, even in environments where it seems like it's all systems go all the time.
So how do we even start to address this? Where do we even begin to look for these hidden inefficiencies?
Well, that's where this concept of active workstation utilization comes in. It's all about pinpointing the exact percentage of time a machine actually needs dust or fume extraction.
I'm guessing it's lower than we might think.
Significantly lower. You see, for a long time, the technology to really fine-tune this, to have on-demand control, it was either too complex or just way too expensive.
So the default was just to overventilate, just to be on the safe side.
Exactly. Better safe than sorry. Right. But as we're finding out, that approach comes with a pretty hefty price tag in terms of wasted energy.
Makes sense. So just because a factory is operating at full capacity doesn't necessarily mean every single workstation needs to be hooked up to this constant extraction system.
Precisely. Think about it, even in the busiest factories, machines are idle at times. Shift changes, loading materials, routine maintenance, all these little pauses add up.
And I bet during those down periods, those dust collection systems, they're still going full tilt, sucking up energy when there's nothing to collect.
You got it. It's like leaving all the lights on in your house, even in the rooms you're not using. Seems obvious when we put it that way, right?
Right, but I guess in a massive factory setting, it's easy to miss those smaller details. But how do we even start to measure this? Do we have any real-world examples that show just how much energy is being wasted?
There was this really interesting case study done with a furniture manufacturer. They were running a tight ship, production in full swing, but even they were surprised by what they found.
This furniture manufacturer, were they aware of any inefficiency, or did they think they were running at peak efficiency?
They were confident, and why wouldn't they be? The factory floor was a symphony of activity. They estimated their active workstation utilization to be at minimum 80%, likely closer to 90%.
That makes sense. Sawdust practically defines furniture production. I'd picture it swirling everywhere all the time.
Exactly. But here's where things took an unexpected turn. They brought in data loggers, sophisticated sensors, to monitor the actual motor activity of 6 of their busiest machines for an entire week.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What did the data reveal?
The results were eye-opening, even for me. Across those 6 machines, the average active workstation utilization was a mere 23.9%. Less than a quarter of the time they were running, these machines actually required dust extraction.
23.9%. That's a staggering difference from their initial estimate. It really highlights how easily our assumptions about energy use can be off base. But is this an anomaly, or do we see similar trends in other industries and factory settings?
That's the compelling part. Data from companies like Ecogate, who specialize in on-demand dust collection systems, consistently reveals similar patterns across a range of industries and factory sizes.
So this isn't just about furniture manufacturing, it's a systemic issue. It seems there's a goldmine of untapped energy savings out there. But how can our listeners, many of whom are probably thinking, wait, what about my factory? How can they start to uncover their own potential for savings?
It's a great question, and thankfully there are practical methods anyone can use. Our source material outlines 4 primary approaches. First, if available, analyze existing production data to calculate active production time versus idle time.
That makes sense, but I imagine most factories aren't tracking those metrics with such granularity.
You're right, that level of detail isn't always readily available. That's where the second method comes in, direct observation using a stopwatch. It's as simple as timing work cycles on specific machines to determine active versus inactive periods.
A more hands-on approach, but definitely effective. What about the other options?
The third method is a snapshot assessment. Walk the factory floor at various points throughout the day, noting which machines are actively cutting or producing. It provides a less precise but still useful overview of utilization patterns.
And the fourth option, I'm assuming, is the most technologically advanced?
Exactly, that's where data loggers come in. These sophisticated sensors, like those used in the furniture factory example, attach directly to the motors of cutting tools or other equipment, recording their actual activity with pinpoint accuracy. Even a short-term data logging experiment can yield incredible insights and potentially justify the investment in an on-demand dust collection system.
It seems like a no-brainer. But beyond the immediate financial benefits of energy savings, what are the broader implications of addressing this widespread waste? This feels bigger than just trimming a few dollars off the energy bill.
You're hitting on a crucial point. The implications extend far beyond immediate cost savings, touching on issues of sustainability and even the future of energy infrastructure.
So we're talking about a much bigger picture here, aren't we? It's not just about saving a few bucks on the energy bill.
You're absolutely right. This ties into some really important stuff, sustainability, for one.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Less energy used means fewer emissions from power plants, right?
Exactly. It's a direct link, really. Efficiency and sustainability going hand in hand.
And it's not just the planet as a whole, right? This has a real impact on local communities too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, a lot of utility companies are now offering financial incentives for businesses to make these kinds of energy-efficient upgrades.
So it's like they're getting rewarded for doing the right thing.
Exactly. It's a win-win. Businesses lower their energy use, get some financial benefits, and everybody wins.
Are there any other perks out there that maybe we haven't even touched on yet?
Well, on top of those incentives, some of these upgrades might even qualify for tax breaks or government grants, which can make a big difference.
That's huge. It seems like everyone's starting to recognize how important this is for the environment and for the bottom line.
And it goes even further than that. Think about it. When factories use less energy, it takes some of the strain off the entire power grid.
Oh, right. And that's becoming even more important as energy demands keep growing.
Exactly. So we're contributing to a more stable and reliable energy system for everyone just by making these changes.
This is really eye-opening stuff. So let's bring it all back together. What are the key takeaways our listeners should be thinking about?
Well, first off, we have to challenge our assumptions. Just because a factory is humming along doesn't mean it's using energy efficiently. There's this whole hidden world of waste out there, and we need to start paying attention to it.
Right. And we've got this concept of active workstation utilization, that percentage of time a machine is actually doing what it's designed to do. Turns out it's way lower than most people think, and that's where the opportunity lies.
And by taking advantage of these opportunities, businesses can save money, they can reduce their environmental impact, and they can even contribute to a more resilient energy grid. It's a win-win-win, really.
It's amazing what we can achieve when we start looking at things a little differently. So listeners, here's a thought for you to chew on. Where else in your life, in your work, do you see this same principle at play? Are there places where we're just assuming constant activity equals efficiency, when in reality there might be a smarter, more sustainable way of doing things? We encourage you to take a closer look to ask those questions and see what you uncover. The possibilities are out there.